fortune of introducing a good friend and our keynote speaker for today, Sandra Argos. And I want to tell you a little bit about her before she comes up here, because it has been such a joy to get to know her. Our common friend, Kelly K. Joe, who is her business partner, introduced the two of us a little more than a year ago. And it's just lovely to talk with her and learn from her. But my friend and I, Rebecca Kahila, and Brad Bazell, who's not with us this morning but is also faculty here, worked on an edited book that was called Cases in Global Competence for Educational Diplomacy in International Settings. And it was born out of our desire to spread the word about the kinds of global competencies that we knew we needed and may or may not have had when we went into educational environments around the world. So, through a labor of love, we invited people to contribute to this book. And our friend, Sandra, wrote the most beautiful chapter titled, What Moves You? And we loved it so much and were so moved by her chapter, What Moves You? We invited her to let us use that chapter as the introduction to this book. So when we were thinking about this conference and thinking, who can move us? Rebecca said, how about Sandra? She has a beautiful chapter, just what we need to hear and what we know that educators will love to hear about and be thinking about in their own lives, because we're all in the classroom every day to move someone, aren't we? We're there to move those students along. So Sandra wrote a chapter for our book. I am privileged to tell you that I also just got back from a fabulous trip to Brazil with these folks, visiting schools and universities there and being so inspired by the possibilities for partnership between the United States and Brazil, because they run, she and Kelly together run this wonderful organization, Liaison America. And I'm not going to tell you everything there is to tell about Sandra, except that she was a teacher in Brazil and a principal in Brazil, and now she is operating from this country to build partnerships between educators here and educators there. And it is truly a labor of love and part of that fire that we're kindling here. They are kindling between our two countries, and it's beautiful. So Sandra, we're looking forward to hearing from you. The floor is yours.
This is such a big responsibility to talk to you about love. So what moves me is love. The answer is right there. So I want to feel some of your love to start this conversation, because I need the wind of love. So what you bring to me, you just say love, and I will receive for you. Okay? So what you bring to me? Love. Thank you so much. Love has took me to many places, has made me make difficult decisions, has made me move and learn. And I know that I'm not the only one. If I have the opportunity to meet each of you today and talk to each of you today, I know I will hear stories of love. Love for education, love for knowledge, love for challenge. I'm one that loves challenge. And sometimes I ask myself, oh my gosh, why Saturday morning I will be in this conference talking to educators that I never met before, and that speak a different language, different from my language, and I have to make an effort to speak clearly with them. Why am I doing this? It's because I love challenges. And I love the fact that we all love too. So we are here in a common place. And I can feel that just being here, I'm safe to talk with you about love. And when I see that picture, I remember my mentor, because sometimes I'm with her, and I am the little one learning from her in the movement that she causes in my life. But sometimes in this last trip to Brazil, when I met with her, she told me, you taught me so much. And I'm like, me? Am I teaching you something? She has so much more experience than me. She launched so many books in Brazil. She has been in conferences all over the world, Germany, Japan, England, the United States, Brazil. And she's telling me I can teach her something. Why? Because this is a movement that we are learning together. And sometimes in this movement, we are teaching and we are learning. And I know that when you are in the classroom, that happens. Sometimes you're guiding, sometimes you're being guided by them, right? So that's the movement of this conversation. We're going to talk about things that hopefully will touch your heart. That's all I want, to touch your heart. And maybe I could just go close to you and do this. I just want to tell you that you are so important. And that your movement that is going to start, it seems like this week, right? For the school year, it's going to be a movement of learning and a movement of love. And that's all that we need in this world, that this movement becomes contagious, and we can all learn from each other, and we can all move together with this passion of learning new things every day. But the world expects from us that we point the way because we're teachers. I'm a teacher and I taught elementary school, middle school, high school, a few years in college, and then I moved to the United States. And every time I was in a meeting with my coordinators, or with the parents of my children, or with the principal of my school, and then later when I was the principal, there was a committee on top of me, and everybody was telling me that I had to help students to develop their talents. They expected that from me. They expected me to help them to learn how to make good decisions. That I had to encourage them to appreciate self-respect and autonomy. That I had to help them to embrace differences. And those differences come in so many different ways. Can be your race, your color, the language you speak, how wealthy you are, the status of your life, because each of us are in a different moment in our lives. Can be your religion, can be your culture. I was pointed to be the one that I had to teach my children, or sometimes the adults that I was teaching, to learn those differences. I had to point the way and show them which way they had to go. Isn't that a difficult task? Are we human beings capable of doing all of that when we are only one in the middle of 7.6 billion? The BBC News say that there were, until this point in the world, more than 107 billion people in the earth. And I am only one. How can I point the way? How can I tell people exactly where they have to move and what they have to do and how they have to be? It's very hard. But what I've learned with my experience here in Radford University is that we are in a beautiful path of seeking ways to be competent to do that together. And that's why we are here together, right? We are not alone today with our books in our houses. Today we are here together to embrace together this mission of being global educators. Well, if I think about being a global educator, I have to ask the same questions now to myself. Have I learned to make decisions that could have positive global impact? Have I been making those decisions? I can tell you today we all make it. We are all here to study and to learn together how to make positive impact. But that is a question before we ask the children, before we ask the parents, we need to ask ourselves, what kind of decisions I'm making? Have I developed my talents to share with others in the world? And I loved when Glenna placed the different type of teachers, the classroom teacher, the school teacher, the global teacher. Well, with who I am sharing my talents? With just my classroom? With my school, my colleagues? all with the world. When we talk about being a global educator, I believe we're talking about sharing with the world, right? Have I developed self-respect so I can respect others? I cannot respect anyone if I don't respect myself. My limitations, my fears. Oh, I have so many fears. One of them is happening right now. The fear of not being clear. Yes, do I know me enough to know where I'm placed in the world so I can make my move? Am I an autonomous individual or am I still the victim? I'm the victim of the system, I'm the victim of the government. In my case, I'm a foreigner living in this country, that I got citizenship in this country, but am I foreigner? Still, I decided living here, so what am I to this country and to this system? Am I going to be victimized by things that are happening in a certain scenario? What about you? Are you a victim of, oh, I couldn't be a doctor, I'm going to be a teacher? Are we autonomous enough to make to look at the mirror and make the decision of saying to ourselves, I am who I want to be. I chose to be who I am right now. And if I'm not happy, am I making a move? Am I learning to move, to make a change in this moment of my life? Do I accept differences? How do I relate to the differences that I face every day in my classroom, in the supermarket, in the streets, in the world? Because those are some of the things that will move us to become global educators or not. They can build walls, and we can be behind them, protecting ourselves of the fun of being free. So before we made those questions to our children, and before our bosses, someone made those questions to us, we need to make those questions to ourselves. And Tony Wagner, in 3 books, he has been telling us, in his research. He did one called Innovators, Creating Innovators. He did one called The Global Gap Achievement. And he has one that Professor Pat even shared in Brazil with our friends that talks exactly about the same topic. We have new skills to develop in our children, in ourselves, because it's never late to learn. We can learn every day. And he calls those skills the 7 survival skills for the 21st century. He calls them because we are in a circumstance that we don't have to apply skills anymore just for the profession or just for life, personal life. No. The skills that you're developing today, here, or back in your classroom tomorrow, Monday, they are skills that you're going to use every day in any scenario. Look at those. Critical thinking and problem solving, collaboration across networks, and leading by influence. Do you want to know one of the most important influencers in the world? You, teacher. We are big influencers in this world, and we lead every day. Agility and adaptability, initiative and entrepreneurialism. So we thought before that being entrepreneurs to have a business, no, is to make a decision of making a lesson plan and sometimes deciding, for example, that we're going to do a field trip instead of staying with the kids in the classroom. Those are entrepreneur capacities. The 5th, effective oral and written communication. 6, assessing and analyzing information as we're doing right now. 7, curiosity and imagination. Do we use this only in our fields, in our professions, in our careers, or only in our lives? Those are the 7 survival skills that we need every day to survive this world we're living. But one of the things we have to decide certainly is for me to develop myself and then to develop others for a global context, I will need to move out of my comfort zone. That is so difficult. And you might think, oh, but I'm not leaving my country, or my state, or my county, or I'm not leaving even my school that I work today. I want to stay there and I want to retire as a principal. You don't need to move the place to move yourself. The movement and the movement of learning, it's internal. It's not external and physical. That is another context of moving. So I want to share with you two stories of two people that made big moves in the world. And one is right here in Appalachia Trail. Who has heard about Graham Gatewood? I hope we share some of the things you've learned, because I just fell in love with that lady. She is incredible. With 63 years old, divorced of a husband that was abusive. Kids were grown, left the house. She's there by herself. She got a piece of paper that had a piece of news that said, the first man to hike the Appalachia Trail. And she said, there are no women hiking the Appalachia Trail? Why not? Well, I'm not doing anything. I'm going to do this. And she left the house with a pair of sneakers, in a big bag with lots of things, in a pair of glasses that broke in the first hill when she was trying to climb a rock. And this gentleman meets her in the middle of that rock and says, lady, Raymond, what are you doing? Where do you live? And she said, oh, I'm going to hike the Appalachian Mountains. And he said, you cannot even see, you broke your glasses, go home. You know what she did? She went home. She was wise. She could not continue walking without glasses. She needed to go home. But she made a plan. Maybe she was a teacher in the heart. She spent a year planning her trip now. And she planned the trip where she's going to have extra shoes, extra glasses, right? The two things that she needed most. And she created even a new concept, the light packing. For the first time, she was the first person to define, and there's her bag, and it's in the museum, Appalachia Trail Museum, the bag there, with the first bag with light items. She defined how she was going to wash her clothes, how she was going to protect herself under the rain, everything she planned in 1 year. But more than that, after she started the walk and she started looking at the path and seeing as a grandma that people were not well taken care of during that walk, she started talking to the people in the counties that she was traveling, saying, you need to fix the shelter so we can sleep. You need to put decent place for us to use the toilet. And she started putting her voice out there. After she finished the trail, and during the trail, when people noticed that grandma is making some noise, who is she? In one of her messages in her journal, she said, I felt like Queen Elizabeth because everybody wanted to talk to her. And she was just a simple woman. And in that book, that is in the last slide, you can find the story, but if you just Google, you're going to see videos of her family saying testimonials about her ideas. She was an entrepreneur in life. She had the 7 survival skills from Tony Wagner. She was made a teacher like us because she taught them how to do things differently on that time. This is another example that I would like to share with you. A man from my country called Amit in his book, Between Sky and Sea. Different from Grandma Gatewood, this was a very educated man who had a challenge in his life. He wanted to build the most technological boats in the world. That's what he wanted to do. Different things. He didn't want to follow the common path. He wanted new. So what he did, he created a canoe, but a canoe that was able to cross the ocean. And he crossed from Africa to Brazil in 100 days between sky and ocean. And during that travesty, if you read his book, you're going to see that he wasn't only thinking about all the technological things that he was going to improve along the way. He was thinking about improving himself as a human being. Just so you have an idea, he left his home on that time, and his wife was pregnant. And he just realized that he was a selfish man when he was riding the boat under a storm, and he said, I should be with my wife and with my baby, and I'm here doing this. So he discovered more about himself with that in his life. New concepts, new fears. He even said in the book that his biggest fear was the fear of giving up. And we all have that fear too, right? We start something, could be a diet, could be planning a trip, could be planning a wedding. There are new young beautiful ladies here, new young beautiful ones. Planning a wedding. We start planning things, and then we're afraid that we might give up. He was afraid of giving up. But you can imagine how he would give up in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean in a little boat. That would be scary, right? So he had to go. And he really found out new technologies. And if you read the book and also all the articles that he wrote after that book, he found specific ways that are used today in Japan, in Germany, and all over the world, ways of measuring how big, how deep your boat should be. That boat was so incredible that a storm could come and the boat would roll, he would close the top and the boat would roll with the ocean until it was gone, until the storm was gone. And then he would open and see the sunshine and hope that a little bird would come and lay on his boat. It's an incredible story about courage and also movement to learn. And I'm sure all of us have a story. And if I ask each of you, what moves you? Why are you making the decisions that you are making? Like the decision of being here today, decisions like the ones you're going to make on Monday with your children. What moves you? You need to make that question every day in your life, and I'm sure most of you make. And it was incredible meeting so many educators and many people that think about the world, and I've been meeting so many through Patty and my friend Glenna. But in that book, if you can get a chance to read that book, you're going to see that all of us have a common understanding about what kind of movement we want to create. We just want to develop people that can engage with the world. Grandma Gatewood, in her way, she engaged really well with her world. She made a change in her path and in the path of so many people that are still going by there and seeing her name in a little plaque. They have no idea, maybe, until they go back and read what that woman did for us. The grandma, she was not a specialist in hiking. We wanted them to engage in the world, and the world starts with you. You bring the world to them. You have more things to bring to them than a smartphone, I promise you. Because a smartphone doesn't bring exactly the love and the passion that you can bring for your children when you hug them and when you welcome their emotions and their fears too. that's a beautiful way to just start engagement, is permitting people to open their heart and share who they are in that moment. And that's a big movement of learning for them, and I'm sure for yourself. When I was coming back from Brazil, I took that picture arriving in Fort Lauderdale, and I was thinking, should I encourage my friends to take their expertise to other lands? Why should we do that? Because when we say global, you are putting all the walls down and you are saying, I'm going to relate with people from all over the world, and I'm going to be capable of doing that in a way that I respect, in that I have empathy, in that I am me. Because when you go out there in the world, you don't have to stop being you. You can be who you are. So why do we do that? Going back to the analysis of comfort zone, that's a wonderful way for you to feel out of your comfort zone. Is when you have an experience abroad that could be short or could be brief, or that you have someone new in your classroom that is from another country. How challenging that is, right? But when you are in a different land, you have to learn the 7 survival skills. But you don't have to be there to be who you are today here. Bringing this movement of learning to your life, and tomorrow and Monday, you're going to impact your children with what you're going to learn here. In Learning Teaching, it's a book that is old for most of you, not for me, 1994. They mention a psychologist, American psychologist called Carl Rogers, and he says, respect, empathy, and authenticity. It's what we need to teach. So again, to speak it clear, respect, empathy, authenticity is what we need to teach. So that's the kind of movement that I believe. That's the kind of movement that brought me all the way to Brazil, to Tazewell County first, and now Montgomery County, and that keeps me here. The love that you gave me in the beginning of this session is the love that I'm seeing in your eyes, and the love that I want to share with you through my time in life here in the United States. But I also want to take you with me and show you other places that also people are waiting and willing to have you and help you to develop yourself in this movement of learning. So I'm sure I'm ready, and I want to ask all of you, and Professor Glenn asked it in the beginning, and I think we all answered already, but I want to ask you again. Are you ready to learn? Yes? Wonderful. So thank you so much. I hope this brings to you some reflections, and this brings to you a lot of love back to you.
This is a change maker, Sandra Argos. Our challenge is to be movers, to be shakers, to be change makers in the world, and to create change makers in the students that we have opportunities to serve. So join me again in thanking Sandra.
I am so honored to be here at Radford University. I really want to thank the committee of the conference, Are You World Ready, for bringing so many good people to think about the need of us, educators, to become better teachers, but also better human beings, so we can really contribute with the life of so many children and young adults. This is a huge responsibility to impact people's lives, and we are here all together to learn, and I'm so thankful for that. It was an amazing beginning, and I'm sure we're going to have lots to learn and a lot of fun.